I want to tell you a story about a man who tried to appease his wife. I'm Joshua Lisec. This is Daily Persuasion. I am the New York Times bestselling author and co-author, ghostwriter of 97 books, and a hypnotist. Through these unique experiences, I curate current events and teach you how to better influence the VIPs of your life and your career. In this particular story, the wife had recently purchased for her husband a pair of brown leather dress shoes. He, of course, is wearing black slacks, and as he gets dressed for the day, elects for his usual black dress shoes. But it's really important to his wife that he wear these new ones. But he's saying, well, they don't really match the brown with the black. I'm not wearing a brown belt. I'm wearing a black belt, black leather belt. So it only makes sense that, no, it doesn't make sense for me to wear these. So she begs, she pleads, she engages in GSRM tactics like Noah Ravoy has written about in Become Immune to Manipulation. He's a star of my book, So Good They Call You a Fake. You should check that out if you have not. So finally he says, okay, I accept your compromise. So he compromises. People say that compromise is the number one skill of a successful marriage. So what does he do? He goes out wearing one brown dress shoe and one black dress shoe. Have you noticed how the American left praise bipartisanship, reaching across the aisle? So important to be bipartisan, so important for the American experiment, for our democracy, for it to be bipartisan and follow precedent. Sometimes the right falls for this. But if you look at the way, not the way that the left talks, but if you look at the way they vote, when it comes to confirmation of Republican versus Democrat appointments in various administrations, when you look at legislations being championed by one president or the other, the left, do they engage in bipartisanship? Maybe 1% of the time, 5% of the time, tops. But does the right? Yes, actually. This is why there is a joke that conservatives are liberals but slower. In 2025, Republicans are more pro-gay than Democrats were 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Democrats, leaders specifically of the Democratic Party, talked about how important it was to protect traditional marriage, traditional faith-based, cultural, heterosexual marriage, how important that was. It was essential to protect it 20 years ago, even 15 years ago. Conservatives are liberals but slower. So when they talk about bipartisanship, it's bait to compromise. Take the wife in this scenario. She wanted her husband to wear what she wanted her husband to wear. She didn't really care that it didn't look right, that it would be silly, and that people who know would know and say, dude, you're not wearing the right color belt. Those don't go with that. What are you doing? Right? If she couldn't get her way, she was going to be darn sure her husband didn't get his way either. And he'd having some explaining to do when people look down at his feet. It's a humiliation ritual, really, is what it is. Now when people say compromise is the essential, most important ingredient to a successful marriage, understand what they really mean by that. And this is not just marriage. This is every relationship, dating or business, platonic or otherwise. When people talk about how important it is to compromise, come back to Richard Bandler's neurolinguistic programming, surface structure and deep structure. Compromise is so important. What they mean is you compromise is so important. Compromise for me is the number one successful signifier of a relationship. Bipartisanship for you is really important. Look at how Trump's appointments versus Biden's nominees were treated. Republicans fell in line for Biden's, even those who are openly anti-Republican. We got to be bipartisan and supportive, just like you liberals are telling us we need to be. And then you've got Pete Hegseth, who needs a tie-breaking vote from Senator turned Vice President J.D. Vance. We're calling him 48, by the way. Axios just wrote a piece about Jack Posobiec doing that. Hilarious. Incredible content. This is what's happening now amongst conservatives and populists and nationalists. So when the populists and nationalists say, more, Mr. President, more. Article 2 of the United States Constitution says you can do it, so do it. All executive power is held by the executive, not by an unelected district judge. They didn't even exist at the time the Constitution was written. Do it, Mr. President. You have our support. Conservatives are liberals but slower. No, slow down. You don't want to set this precedent of doing a little bit of what Obama did when he was elected and also what Biden did when he was elected. No, what would happen if the roles were reversed? Well, actually, they are reversed now, and we're doing a little bit of what Democrats do. And remember FDR, who was the most powerful totalitarian we ever had in the Oval Office, and Democrats absolutely love him and everything that he did. No, it's silly. It's silly. Democrats want you to wear a brown shoe and a black shoe. Don't do it. And you'll notice this in your own life. Wait a second. The person asking you to compromise, they're trying to manipulate you to looking like an idiot. This is, of course, what's happening. They want their way or you to look like an idiot. There's no reality where you do what you want. You have to do what they want and wear both brown shoes, or they will accept you looking like an idiot going out in public. They want, you will either do what I say or you will be humiliated. That's what they want. That's what it's so important for our democracy and bipartisanship. So people will talk about this in relation, like they'll say things like, well, every contract, it's a little give and a little take. So brown shoe and black shoe. It's really important to be flexible and workable. That's a really important value to us, they will say. There's a great book that you should read. I believe it's by Dr. Emmanuel Smith, if I remember correctly, called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. It's a classic book from the late 60s or 70s. It's had a number of editions since then, but it seems to be out of print. And I think I know why. Because the left-wing cultural project requires manipulation. It requires a public who will not say no because they feel guilty when they do. So does the publishing industry want anti-left-wing, anti-communist, anti-leftist tools running about? I don't think so. Really don't think so. In any case, if it's very hard for you to self-advocate, get a copy of that book, When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. And in the meanwhile, when someone is talking about how important it is to compromise, when we start talking about compromise, when we start talking about being workable, being flexible, understand that it's probably not because they're willing to, it's because they hope you're willing to. Look for the deep structure. When they say compromise is really important for this marriage to work, what are they asking you to do? They're probably asking you to take off one of the black shoes and put a brown shoe on. Because if they can't win, they can at least humiliate you. So no one else will want you, so you're stuck with them. This is what they do.